Hey there, Husker fans. Back at another Pick Six podcast. Sam McKewon along with Tom Shatel and Evan Bland. We're here on what technically is a Victory Wednesday. The Nebraska volleyball team wins on the road at number 5 Stanford. We're going to talk about that off the top because, hey, there is one great program inside Husker athletics, and that's the one. And then, of course, things have heated up pretty fast around Nebraska football, it feels like. They're 0-2. The fans are a little restless. They'll be a little nervous going into Saturday night's home opener against Northern Illinois. We're going to talk about quarterback. We're going to talk about, how we've covered Rhule so far. Have we been too tough on him? Have we been fair? I see a little bit of that rumbling out there that, we're treating him too harshly compared to Scott Frost and all this other stuff. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk a little defense and where they're at. And then at the end, we're going to talk about Memorial Stadium. We're starting a 3 These Gates series with Evan Bland's story about the mysteries and the secrets of Memorial Stadium, a neat story that'll be in our paper on Thursday. And then Tom, he's seen more games here than anybody who covers the team, pretty much. And I would love to just hear his thoughts on, what Memorial Stadium's meant over the years to him. So we just want to remind everyone to subscribe to the Omaha World-Herald. Today is September 13th, and if you get a subscription to the World-Herald today, it's basically 6 months for $1. That's going to take you all the way through March 13th, and pretty much by then, we'll know if Nebraska basketball is in the NCAA tournament or not. So you're going to get the entire Nebraska basketball season. You get almost the entire Creighton basketball season because they will be in the tournament. You're going to get all the Husker football. You're going to get all the Husker women's basketball. You'll get the entire volleyball season. It looks like they've got a Final Four run in them. So you want to subscribe to omaha.com. That's www.omaha.com/subscribe, www.omaha.com/subscribe. Okay, let's start with volleyball. That was a heck of a match. Nebraska looked like the better team. They played like the better team, and they won in 4 sets. Not handily, but I thought they controlled it from start to finish.
Yeah, that was for me that was sort of a transformation game. When the match started, that they were underdogs. Even they were ranked higher.
Yep.
They hadn't beaten Stanford in years. One of the freshmen hadn't been in a match like that yet this year. I mean, not really. Even though they'd played in front of 90,000, right? And Creighton came to town. This was a different deal on the road at Stanford. But you could just see it as the match went on. They became not only the more aggressive team.
Yep.
They stood up to them and they dealt the blows. They were they got after them, and I felt like by the end of the match, okay, they were the favorite. They were the better team, and I think this is now a team that has a lot of talent, but sometimes you need proof, and sometimes now they'll get more chances in the Big Ten to do that. I feel like now it's a national title contender, as opposed to before. It may or may not happen this year. I think now you can go, okay, they got it.
I think they do. I think that's completely true. And the way that they started the match, it was a little sloppy at times, but they won that first set. It's the first time they've won the first set against Stanford, I think, since 2008. Or maybe even 06. Like, it's been a long time.
8. It was 8.
8, yeah. So the first time they'd done that, and then the second set was a domination. Stanford was, I think, overwhelmed. ESPN talked to the Stanford coach in between those sets, and he's like, yeah, they're pretty good on offense.
We're going to try to do something different.
Yeah, so I think he was a little bit, I don't know, shell-shock's not the right phrase, but I think he was impressed. And then by the end of the match, Harper Murray played very well. Merritt Beeson is a really, really good player, and I think we're now seeing that over the last three matches or so. When they play the better teams, Merritt Beeson's going to end up being one of their better players. Evan, what were your takeaways, if any?
Yeah, I mean, it was really impressive. I thought the physical skill that they showed at the net was really notable. They've been a good passing team. They were a good passing team last year, one of the best. But their physical presence at the net, it made it look like they were playing on the road against Purdue on a weeknight in the Big Ten. a national title contender like Stanford and some of the players that they had. So I thought that was really impressive. Becca Alec, Harper Murray, and then what John Cook said afterwards about, they're young. We don't tell them that they're young. I mean, that's a great place to be when you have this influx of talent. And it just felt fresh, man. I mean, we've talked on this pod over the years, last couple of years, about how that COVID year took a lot out of that senior class when they played in the spring and they played in the fall, and it kind of got, you could just tell there was some fatigue in there. And so this new guard was really impressive. And I think it was so interesting because everyone put so much focus on Volleyball Day in Nebraska that they, you kind of lost sight of the fact that there was a heck of a non-conference
that's right.
opportunity after that. And boy, did they ever show that they're on that short list to be contenders this year.
I think Kentucky is their last non-conference match. If they win that, then they've done what they set out to do. Obviously, the Creighton team they played wasn't full strength. If that team had been full strength, I think it would have been more interesting than it was.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody's going to care about that. They won the match. Then they go and beat full strength Stanford. They're going to beat Kentucky on Sunday unless they have a total letdown. So they did exactly everything they wanted to do. They got to have their fun with Volleyball Day, and then they went out and they built a substantial resume going into Big Ten play. Nebraska will play number 1 Wisconsin at some point this season. I don't know that Wisconsin will be number 1 when they play them, but they will play number 1 Wisconsin. Minnesota's ranked somewhere in there, 6, 7. They play Creighton this weekend. They won't face Louisville until the NCAA tournament, if they face them. And then who's 3? Florida?
Florida's in there,
school that Merritt Beeson left.
Mm-hmm.
So Florida was pretty damn good. If she left there and they're still that good, they were good. Because she's been a big addition. Like she's been a really, really good player. She may be their best player, honestly. And that wasn't something I would have anticipated going in. Okay, so let's move on to football. That was a heck of a fun thing to watch Tuesday night. Okay, so the team's 0-2. The general vibe I got, well, I'm going to ask this. What was your general vibe from Rhule's presser on Monday? Because we all saw Saturday, and that was one thing. But Monday, that was interesting.
Well, I wish I would have asked a question out front that I asked him on the hallway, because he wouldn't answer it in the hallway. He said he would have answered it out front. So that's the first time that's ever happened to me. About why you bench Grant, but you don't bench Sims. And he said, obviously he said they wanted to give the other guys more carries, Irvin and Johnson, but he also said Grant left the ball on the ground, and so he was going to sit.
Yeah.
Well, I said, well, what about Sims? And he said, I don't want to answer that up here. I'd rather answer that up front, so he can hear my answer and not read it. And that's the first time it's ever happened. I don't know. I don't think.
Surprising, wasn't it?
I don't think he wants to answer that question. That's my take. Is that I think if he'd have been asked up front, he loves to give answers. He gives good answers. He gives good explanations. But that's a tough one for a coach to, because there are double standards. And when it's the quarterback, and no, there's not a drop off at running back, but there's a drop off at quarterback. That doesn't mean those guys can't do anything. But there's a drop, So, and it's still. There's only been 2 games. So if you start, taking the quarterback out and then the other guy can't do it, and then you got to put him, Sims back in, and it just becomes this long season of who's the quarterback. And they don't like, he wants to avoid that. So, anyway.
Rightfully so.
Anyway, so we can talk about that again, but my vibe was, I'm glad he was asked about the whole logo gate, the whole disrespect thing. I thought he had a good answer for that. He had a good answer for 9/11. Look, he's not panicking. But I think that's very important that he's putting on a good face or a good a good front. He's not backing down. He's going with it. But the bottom line is the things that we believe what we see on the field. So, but I don't know. I think they should be 1-1 in some way. Minnesota game, I keep thinking about that possession before halftime. They could have won that game. They're so close to that, and the vibe would be totally different there, 1-1 right now. So
That's a good point. Now the Minnesota game looms large. I think in the week between Minnesota and Colorado, it didn't. Now it does, because now they've lost that game. Mm-hmm. And
I think this is a better team in some ways, but you got to get quarterback right. You got to get that right. And last week we saw one program got quarterback right, very right. The other one didn't.
Well, that's true. That's very true.
And that Colorado
and
thing,
he's good. He's good.
Well, let me say this: you got to get lucky. And when I say Colorado lucky, okay, Dion, here's another receipt for you to keep. But sometimes you have to get lucky. Reminds me of McDermott's at Creighton.
Yep.
He needed that. Doug, when the best player in the country is your son, how often does that happen? Well, I've seen it at Creighton, and now I've seen it at Colorado.
Right. And
It
you didn't
does
know
happen.
that he was the best player in the country?
Not when
Because,
he's-
Doug did not. I think Greg would say he didn't know that.
Well,
that
we
was
didn't.
what-
We knew he was very good, and he was capable of, the Valley Player of the Year and maybe All Americans, whatever. But as he went on, he
Right.
became something else. But that arguably was a big piece of getting Creighton into the Big East.
Yep.
And then you start in the Big East with him, and here you go, and then it just helps recruiting.
Yep.
It's okay to say you get a little lucky. The best player in the country, is grew up in your house, so it's okay. But I feel like Nebraska is still in a good spot. But now the question is, how many more turnovers does Sims have left in him, and how long do they stay with that, and how many games can they win if they have a quarterback who doesn't make mistakes?
Evan, I want to read part of your quote. This is not a perfect transcription of this, because this came from NU Media, and that's fine. This isn't a perfect transcription of what he said, because what he said was actually better than this. But here's what he said. This is kind of what you get when you hire me, and he kind of shrugged, right? It's not going to be a quick fix, not overnight. It's going to be what we believe, built to last. He also said built on rock. It's not in the transcription here, but yeah, he said that. We take advantage of these painful moments. We sit there as a coaching staff, and we say to ourselves, our goal is in 3 years, we'll look back and say we did our best coaching during these weeks. I understand if there's frustration. We're trying to learn how to win. That's everything. And then he goes into, so on and so far. He said he did a poor job of preparing for the crowd noise. That's surprising to me. I wonder if he was told that there won't be a crowd issue because Nebraska will take up half the stadium. I hope he wasn't told that, but you never know. So he had some things in there that were really interesting in that line. We'll sit there as a coaching staff and we say to ourselves, our goal is in 3 years, we'll look back and say that we did our best coaching during these weeks. What do you think that means?
I think it means this is still when you're turning things. Like, you've had a whole off season to set a culture, but this is it's being tested. And this is the refiner's fire, if you will, to see kind of where it goes from maybe head knowledge into they believe this in their gut because they've seen it out there. And I thought the line that he said too, you don't want to waste a crisis, and it feels like a crisis a little bit. You're 0-2. You're out in class as a player, whatever. Everybody's gnashing of teeth and everything like that. It is so. Like, in those moments, it's that spot where you, as a player or as a coach, say, "All right, we got to change something. This is not working. Oh my gosh!" Or you double down, and that's sort of the theme of the week: is double down, trust the process. We've seen that at different points from different sports organizations, but that's what it feels like. It's like, okay. Let's double down, and I think it helps that you look at Matt Rhule's track record. They started 0-6 at Temple or 0-8, 0-6 at Temple in 2013, 0-8 at Baylor in 2017. So this is not new for Matt Rhule to have these rough starts, and it's part of that resetting of the foundation that's going to carry into the season.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, a lot of those. A lot of good words were said, but again, we need to see action. And That's an interesting line. We learn from a crisis. Well, there's a crisis at quarterback right now. What have you learned? Show me what you've learned. And frankly, there's not a lot of coaching to be done with Jeff Sims. He's an older player.
Yeah.
He knows what to do and what not to do. So go do it. And if you can't do it, you're on the bench. At some point, that has to be what you learn from a crisis.
Right.
Is that you can't keep. You're going to lose the fans. You're going to lose the team if you keep doing that. So, Heinrich Harburg, I look at him and I'm going, he could be a game manager, maybe. Maybe. He could be a guy who makes a play here or there. But at some point, you're going to have to decide, there's an upside with Sims, but the downside is outweighing it. When does that get in the way of games that are going to be toss-ups? And I love the line about this is what you got when he's right. That's what you got when you hired me. Husker fans don't want to hear that necessarily. They want to hear, how are things getting better right now? I don't want to wait 3. I've been waiting for 10 years. Husker fans have been waiting every year for this. They don't necessarily want to be told they have to wait 3 years. So, but they might have to, because look at that roster. And I believe the coach is going to go into that portal a little bit more. Maybe he wants to after the season, depending on what he thinks he can develop on that roster and what he can't, because they still need a lot of help there.
Let's go back to the quarterback thing, because there were about 4 good things in there. We'll start with this. So Jeff Sims is the quarterback. Heinrich Harburg, I'd say he's a similar player to Jeff Sims, honestly. First of all, you get it in emails. I don't know if you spend as much time looking at your people who tweet at you, but I got it on Twitter on Saturday, and you get it in your emails. The criticism for Jeff Sims was really hot. It was like Taylor Martinez hot, and they were really good back when Taylor Martinez was the quarterback, and so people were mad at Taylor because he was keeping them from winning the Big Ten title. But the criticism for Sims was hot. It was like, he's an idiot. Get him out of there. And it was different. Why do you think it's so is it just because the mistakes were so rudimentary that it was like that? Yeah. Or have people's wicks burned down to virtually nothing and they're just sick and tired of watching sloppy football?
I think you said it well in what you wrote. They see this, Colorado, just these guys show up and they're just greatest one of the best players in college football.
Yep.
Just right there, right?
And they played clean too.
Yeah.
They didn't turn over the ball.
Right. And then Nebraska can't catch the snap. I mean, how do you people can't take it. I agree with them. And then you throw the interception. He's just happened to be there. Oh shoot. Yeah. It's so that's why it's not personal. It's not, they don't even know Jeff Sims, and they want to like him. They want him to do well, but they're tired of this stuff that looks like football that doesn't make sense.
Right.
And they've seen it now 2 weeks in a row with this guy. So,
in both cases, when you mentioned Temple and Baylor, in both cases at those schools, Matt Rhule put a true freshman quarterback out there.
Right.
P.J. Walker and Charlie Brewer, and I think the expectation was we're not going to be very good, and so we're gonna start with a kid, and we're gonna develop the kid, and as we develop the kid, we're gonna develop the team, and that all sort of panned out. They didn't do that in this case. They decided that they were going to go out and get a veteran. What they didn't get, and you've written about Jeff Sims, what they didn't go get was a pedestrian game manager. They didn't get that. No. That's not who Jeff Sims is. It's not what he was at Georgia Tech. They could have gone out and got a pedestrian game manager. Oh, let's go get this guy over here. He's only got, 10 career interceptions. He's probably not going to get us a lot, but he's not going to make the big mistake. They go out and get the playmaker. Mm-hmm. And the problem is he's made more plays for the other team than he's made for his own team. And then they go out and get an offensive coordinator. And I understand why Matt Rhule hired a guy that he's worked with his whole life. But if you look at that guy's offenses, and I got some pushback on this, and that's fine. I deserve it. 27 turnovers last year. 24 turnovers a year before. Last year they had 27 turnovers, and Spencer Rattler was their quarterback. He's not a bad guy. He's pretty good. So they went out and hired people who were big play guys who also turned the ball over, and that feels incongruent to what they're trying to do here, because you see it on the defense. On the defense, the culture that Rhule's talking about is there, and my goodness, Mekhi Bayer and Javen Wright and John Bullock and Deshaun Singleton, the previous staff left those guys to do whatever they wanted, but they weren't going to play.
Right.
And now all of a sudden they're playing. So it's all working on that side of the ball. On the offensive side of the ball, it's not working. And I do think some of that's, I'm not trying to knock Scott Frost here, some of it is the fault of the people who were there before, because that offensive system was such a mess, with Scott not knowing who his coordinator was, or having coordinators that didn't do much, or analysts as coordinators and switching out the staff and all the stuff that Scott was doing. I do think it created a culture on the offensive side of the ball of confusion and uncertainty, and I think Eric Chenander did a much better job on the defensive side of the ball, so that when Tony White came in, what he inherited was better than what Matt Rhule and Marcus Satterfield inherited. Nevertheless, I'm not sure they made it better. I think you get. Now, I'll just say this: if you replace Jeff Sims and you bench him, like Tom's saying, I think you got to give the kid a chance, a real chance. Maybe not Chuba Purdy. I don't know. Chuba may or may not play, but I think you got to give Harburg a real chance. If you're yanking him out of there the way they yanked Luke McCaffrey out a couple years ago, well, you're damaging the kid's confidence now too, and you're asking, and the team doesn't know where you really stand.
Do you care, though? If you're Heinrich Harburg, do you care what the circumstances are that get you into the game? Like, if I'm Heinrich Harburg and I'm number 2 on the depth chart, I don't care why Jeff Sims isn't in the game, whether he's being punished, whether he's being set aside to see it from a different perspective, whatever. Like, that's my chance. Like, if I get a drive, if I get a game, if I get whatever until I lose it, like, I don't know. It feels like we're psychoanalyzing these guys a little bit. When, if it were me, any chance that I got out there to do what I do, I would go out there and do it until they told me not to. And maybe they think about it deeper than that. But
I think the frontal lobe of every competitor is exactly what you just said. But we're not any of those athletes. And so what I think about is the thing that in theory we could do, which is be the person in the room that says, if you do this, then you got to think about this. You know, it'd be like saying, well, you can bench Jeff Sims because Jeff Sims will understand that, and then when he goes back in, he'll be a competitor. Like, there's a biorhythm to this thing, to quote the old bases loaded game. I mean, yeah, I think that's a good point, that he will take any opportunity he can get. That was true of Luke McCaffrey, too, and Luke left and became a wide receiver who could now help this team.
Absolutely.
Now, if Nebraska had managed that situation better, and they didn't, they managed it horribly, they could have been honest with Luke and said, listen, man, you're going to play in the NFL, but you're not going to play as a quarterback. Stay here as a receiver, become an all Big Ten guy. In a couple of years, you're going to be this, this, and this. And how nice would it be to have him now? Because he's going to be an NFL draft pick. And they don't have an NFL draft pick at receiver right now. You know?
That's right.
You know, I really thought, and then it was the end of the game, but I found it interesting that Harburg found Thomas Fedoni, where Jeff Sims just can't seem to find him. Doesn't know where he is, or it just seems like he's not getting the ball. And so, I mean, end of the game, I understand. But I feel like Fedoni got targets. So, like, oh, yeah, he's here. Good. Get him the ball.
You got 2 on 1 drive. That's right.
And so you don't know what you're going to get if you play Harburg. You might get that. You might get – he's the game manager you're talking about. What I think we might be getting – see, this is going to be this might be push come to shove with Sims, because one of the reasons I believe what you said about going to get him, he's got an upside, boy, that downside. These guys think they can fix the downside. They're not about throwing away guys. Now maybe they have and they will, but they're about, we're going to fix them. We can fix these guys.
Right.
That's what we do, and so we're going to fix Jeff Sims. You watch. And so, in the meantime, it's painful. How many times did he say painful? More painful on the way? I hope not. But it's like, he might ride with Sims for all just because he thinks he's going to, I think that's been stubborn in a way. If he keeps turning it over and they lose some more games because of it, the fans aren't going to be in the mood for Okay, we don't want you to fix this guy. We want you to give us another guy. So I think this is the Rhule philosophy is sort of on display right now with Jeff Sims. But, we're not gonna throw him away. We're gonna fix him, and like we're trying to do with all these other guys. So, and it really, I wonder by saying the other day, Monday, by saying, it's just a 3-year thing, does that give him? Is he trying to get a little? And I think he already has space to work with. Is he trying to tell the fans, hey, don't worry about this year. It's just a 3-year thing. But Husker fans, this isn't Baylor. This isn't Temple. People have a different expectation here. So we're trying to figure him out, and I think he's trying to figure out Nebraska. And meanwhile, Northern Illinois is coming to town, and I hope Sean Eichhorst isn't around.
Well, Rhule's right when he says this is who I am, because that is what he does. He takes the high upside guys. That's what he's always done. Take the high upside guys, kind of smooth them out, develop them, and then they turn into something. And Jeff Sims in his 4th year looks pretty raw in that regard.
That's the point. 4th year. At some point, you're either this or you're that.
The quarterback thing's interesting because we talk about the defense and how all these guys have emerged, Mekhi Bayer and Javen Wright. Like, they're not afraid, and they've said this, they're not afraid to put all these guys out there, one, because they feel like they're able, but also because you never know what's going to happen when the light comes on. I wonder what's the point when that becomes true for the quarterback, where, okay, you kind of see what you've seen from Harburg or Purdy in practice. What happens when the lights come on? Could it be a little bit different? And then, I just wanted to mention, too, to the point of the frustration, like, everyone thought Nebraska going 6-6 would be a good season, right?
Exactly.
So you're 0-2. There's a whole lot of season left, including two home games coming up here. And so it's an interesting moment, I think, to remember that, like, it's one thing to sort of fast forward through the season and get to what's next, and then it's another to live it each week when you got to hear about it every day, and you got to go to Colorado and you got to feel it and you got to hear it from the fans. The big picture versus sort of the granular is what we're feeling the tension of as well.
They didn't get they got tossed a tough break by having to go to Minnesota. Well, you made the way to open up a new regime and teach people how to win is not we're going to open up Minnesota at night, and we're not. Right. And then you go to Colorado, and by the way, they will look like a top 10 team right now. That's not the way you want to start a new regime. So. And I guarantee you they're going to be tired of the color yellow. But what they need is a little home cooking this week. We need a good game at home, fans out there on their side. No noise problems this week. And then they need Jeff Sims if he plays. We don't know if he's going to play. We'll find out more today, I guess, or tomorrow. But they need a clean game. They need to score some points, and they need a feel-good game at home. And then they need another one. And you'd be surprised at the mood and if they're 2-2, and that things are kind of turning around a little bit in offense. So, but I just wonder if there's a mid-season or a thing that, like, you play a different quarterback and there's a spark that happens, or one of those running backs, the light comes on a little bit, and they start to do this dynamic with the running game, and they start getting that going. That's what I wonder about the between now and sort of mid-October. What kind of thing can they can they get some kind of momentum going, or is it going to be one of these win a couple, lose a couple? You don't really get anywhere type of deals.
I think one thing that was true also of the Temple Baylor teams that isn't true of this one is that Temple gave up 460 yards a game in its first season under Matt Rhule, and Baylor gave up 480. Baylor also gave up 36 points a game on defense. This defense isn't going to do any of those things. This defense looks like a defense that quite honestly is better than any defense Nebraska's had since 2016. And in theory, your offensive line should be one of your best. It's not still, but so there's those components too, where you're like, okay, yeah, it's very true that you're looking at a rebuild, but the defense looks rebuilt. It doesn't look like it needs any, like.
It's good enough to win in this league.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think So I want to shift to this. Are we, maybe as the media, but also as just fans, is we a little too hot on this thing? I mean, they've lost 2 games before the season. I think a lot of people thought they might be Colorado, but then Colorado turned out to be way better than anybody thought. And looks like an 8 or 9 win team, partially because of the quarterback. I mean, is there just, and I ask this to myself too, is there's too much heat too quickly on this era? Or is it appropriate given some of the comments the athletic director has made about needing to win soon and we can't fiddle faddle around and all those things? Is it? I mean, it seems. I mean, the athletic director has been as potent and pointed as anyone about the need to win football games.
Right. I think it stems from people's belief that there's one decision related to one position that needs to be made. I think that's what it is. Like if Minnesota rolled Nebraska in the opener, if Colorado just clearly out-talented Nebraska last week, I think people would say, okay, we'll settle in. We're gonna trust the development and trust the recruiting classes and whatnot. I think it heightens that tension when you lose the opener the way that you did in such a familiar fashion. I think it heightens the tension when, for a lot of that game on Saturday, Nebraska looked like it belonged with Colorado. They held their own, but they made stupid mistakes and there were turnovers and just like basic things that seem to be holding them back. And so I think that's what's upsetting people, is that if you just play even, play regular, don't hurt yourself, like you're going to contend. I think that is what is heightening this thing. Because again, if they stunk, if they were clearly years away, I think people would get that. But it's as close as they are, and as they consistently hurt themselves, I think is what really fires people up.
I don't think there's that much heat. I think, quite frankly, anytime you lose a game, as Osborne used to say, they're all big games. If the big games are the ones you lose. Whenever Nebraska loses a game, there's heat. And that's how this place is. That's how it's built. That's how a lot of places are built. I mean, that's what makes it great. But people are they're on Rhule because of the court. He made the wrong decision at quarterback, is what they're saying. And frankly, I might have to agree. I mean, I still want to see a little bit more from Sims, but maybe not too much more of that. They want to see, okay, this guy's, he's been billed as sort of like a miracle worker, a guy who's got magic. Well, the magic isn't in the headset. The magic is in all the hard work. It's sort of like the Ben Hogan secret. It's in the dirt. You have to go dig it. And that's what this is. The secret of Matt Rhule is in that dirt. But I don't think people are, when you lose a game, they're going to get mad. And I thought, well, if they lose to Colorado, I think they will. I picked it. That's an emotional one. And Minnesota's not Colorado's emotional.
Yeah.
So I figured, well, this could be, if you lose this one, we'll hang on. So, but I think most people understand. Yeah, this was 6-6. This was 0-2 isn't the end of the world. But as I wrote for Sunday, I picked 0-2. I picked 6-6. I think they could still get there. There's a lot of, my goodness, Michigan State now upside down. Who knows? But then you got Northwestern, Purdue, all of a sudden winning. Who knows about that? There's a lot of things we don't know about. But what we know is they can't keep doing that at quarterback, or it's going to be a long year. And so they got to get that fixed. And so, but yeah, people, I've had people tell me, well, you're not hard enough on him. You be harder on this guy. You're just letting him talk, and he sounds like he's a snake oil salesman or something. I don't know. Here we go. That's already started. I said, no, the guy is a proven commodity as a coach. Okay, he's proven. But he's got to keep proving it. And he's got to prove it now at a place that expects more. And they're going to expect it sooner. But I think most fans are understand it's going to be a while, but you got to give them something, And I think the defense has given them something, but by the end of the year, they're going to want to see, okay, this was progress. I feel good about this, and Jeff Sims is going to have a lot to say about that.
That's a good point. I think there's an impression that when Scott got here, Scott Frost, that is, he took over literally the worst football program in America. Like, that was the narrative that was presented very quickly, that Mike Riley had almost destroyed it. And
it got worse.
and first of all, and I think this is part of it, he didn't take over the worst football program in America. They had 3 or 4 bad games toward the end of Riley's tenure when everybody knew he was going to get fired. But up till then, and Riley made the mistake of allowing Bob Diaco to be hired by Eichhorst or whatever you want to call that. And that was unfortunate because Diaco contributed to this impression that nobody was minding the store because there was something, he was strange. So that didn't help, that impression. But Scott Frost didn't take over the worst program in college football. And I would argue that, what Matt Rhule took over was also not the worst program in college football. Mm-hmm. Deion Sanders actually took that over, and he completely got all the guys out, and he brought all of his guys in. And that's what he did. And maybe if he had taken over at Nebraska, maybe he wouldn't have done that. I don't know. But Rhule didn't take over the worst program in college football. But I think there's a sense that because he's been so optimistic and positive in his own way over the last 9 months, it was going to come to fruition in a little bit different fashion. But the reality is staying in dorms and doing all the off-season culture work and all those things really can account for drop snaps. And if you drop 3 snaps or however many snaps it was, and then you throw a flat ball that's intercepted multiple times, I don't know how your culture can address that other than the quarterback has to either change his mechanics or he's got to change something in his process, or you change the offense. You change it so that Jeff Sims feels more comfortable with what you're doing versus whatever they've been doing up to this point. I don't know that he has discomfort in the offense, but clearly something's not right when you're running into situations where he's dropping snaps that are right in his hands.
That's not the culture or the offense. That's
right.
The player.
Yeah, probably. That's what's tough about it. There are things you can also do. It's 3rd and 18. Just hand the ball off. Don't let the quarterback scramble out of bounds. Don't let him do that. Don't do that. It's 3rd and 12. There's 4 minutes left in the first half. You know what? Just run the ball. Punt it. Make Shedeur Sanders go 75 yards, and you go into halftime down 3-0. And those are ways that you can mitigate damage. Mm-hmm. Then they come out in the second half, they get a stop, and instead of being down 13-7, you're ahead 7-3, which is exactly what it was at Minnesota. At times, it feels like they've got to find a way to mitigate calamity, and if they do that, then their defense will help them out. I don't know. We'll see.
Yep.
Marcus Satterfield and Tony White talked today. Those will be very different kinds of conversations. I'm sure Tony White's disappointed with some of the stuff that happened in the second half of that game. Colorado's offense, by the way, A, it runs really fast, and B, they have this sort of improvisational gift where their receivers will stop a route, and they'll just literally stop, and then they'll start again. That's not easy to cover. That's a hard, and you saw it throughout the game. Yeah. Guys would run a curl, they'd stop, and then they'd go with a crossing route, and Nebraska got beat on that like 5 times. It's very challenging to cover a player who basically stops, and if the quarterback's got enough time, and he did, then the route starts again. It's like a motion offense in basketball. It's challenging to slow them down. They're going to be a fun team to watch. I want to get now to Memorial Stadium. So Nebraska comes back for its first home game of the year. This is the home opener. I believe it's a sellout. Here we go, right? 100 years of Memorial Stadium. Evan is going to start our Through These Gates series off with a story about the secrets and the mysteries of Memorial Stadium. You found an interesting nugget from former Director of Facilities John Ingram of what the stadium was supposed to be initially, that kind of thing. And then, Tom, I'd love to talk to you just about the history of the place. But I want to start with you, Evan. Talk a little bit about your story and what you maybe learned about the quirks of that particular stadium.
Yeah, it was a fun story to put together. Went in the spring with John Ingram when he was there. He was kind enough to take me around the area, the facilities, and I think fans generally kind of understand the history of it. But what I was looking for was like, okay, what's something that fans walk by every week, every fall Saturday, and maybe they didn't know the significance of, or maybe there were some small things that they didn't know. So one of my favorites is early in the story about some just initials that are painted onto the concrete wall in one of the ramps, actually many of the ramps, throughout the stadium, because back in the early 1920s, 1923, 1924, the university would pay players in the summer to paint the wood and to do all these things for upkeep. And they would make a habit, the players, of putting their initials in very random places. And I spent some time trying to kind of figure out who maybe some of these mystery initials were, JH and SS and RG. And you can kind of make some guesses on some because they had a lot more nicknames back then than they do now. But stuff like that. There's a 100-year-old dog tracks of a dog that walked through the drying cement back then. There are doors that go nowhere. There are ramps that used to go up to the top level of Memorial Stadium that now just end at the underside of a concrete staircase because they redid the club level. Mm-hmm. So I think ultimately that was one of my bigger takeaways from the event was when you have a stadium that was originally intended to be one way and society changes over the course of 100 years and you have expansions and you have additions and you have renovations, it's this just kind of mishmash of all these different eras, and they make it work, and it's a really cool game day experience. But there are also things that sort of get lost in the shuffle around there. I think the Mushroom Garden area is really interesting. I think that's under the stands, especially there on the east side. Excuse me. And the athletic department has like a little caged bunker of stuff, and I think it would be every Husker fan's dream. They have old traveling trunks and game programs from the 80s. Ingram told a story a number of years ago that he unearthed the Nebraska-Missouri victory bell that was under there. It was Nebraska had won so many years in a row that they had forgotten about it, and it was half buried in the Mushroom Gardens under this bed of crushed brick. So just stuff like that. I think fans will enjoy reading it because, again, a lot of the stuff you can see. You can read the story. You can walk into the stadium on Saturday and just kind of see some of these historically significant things.
They should do a tour of that. I mean, they should offer a tour for people to walk into that stadium and see that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I love it. You've had a lot of history with that stadium. It has changed in the first time you went to it until now. You covered a lot of games in the old shell. Now, and the new shell came in, 94, 95?
98.
98,
Yeah.
okay. I covered a couple games in the old shell when I came to college, but have you seen it change? What do you like about what do you love about the Memorial Stadium?
Well, I love stadiums. I love all stadiums, whether they're new or old. I've always been sort of infatuated or intrigued by the stadiums, and I see them all as the characters in the play, sort of, whether they're new or old. For instance, Rosenblatt versus Charles Schwab, and
Yep.
they each have different characteristics. They're both really good for the fans in their own way. But the college football stadiums are we call them old. The battleships or whatever, the aircraft carriers, whatever you want to call them, these old things, old. They don't go away because you can't build new stadiums. Colleges they just cost too much, and people. So you're starting to see it now. Other schools, and Nebraska's going to be one of them, where they've taken old and they got to make it new somehow, and it becomes a hybrid of old history versus the party deck. It becomes this thing where you've got to have both. I just love it because it's got so much history. I love history, and I love the fact that so much history has happened there. And for the first day I walked up and saw it, I saw that the inscription on the corner pillar. I mean, just can't see it now. You can walk upstairs and it's right there. But it used to be, it was just right before, it was right there. They had that red N on the press box that you used to turn on at night. Every night they had the red on and would like it would flash red. It would turn on. They turned the light on. And it was every night you saw that red end on stadium. And but I just love. I felt like the stadium has a lot of stories to tell. A lot has happened there, and to me, the best part about these things is, and especially Nebraska Stadium, every game there, it feels like a big game because so many big games have happened there. So many things have happened. You walk in there and go, okay, yeah, this team may not be very good, but what am I going to see today? What am I going to watch? And that's part of the experience. And it's just Nebraska. It's one of the best stadiums. It's Oklahoma. They've turned it into this thing, and Nebraska they have too, to a certain extent, where it's not. It doesn't look like it used to, but it still feels the same. I think the stadium's all about feel too. I'm excited about this season. I love these stories that Evan's writing, and I love. I've got memories from fans. I'm gonna write about that later, and we have other stories planned. But the thing that it's become too easy to come in there and win for opponents, and the Nebraska Stadium, the Memorial Stadium, used to be one of the players. It used to be part of the team. It was a significant part of every game where opponents walked in there going, "Holy crap! I can't. This is. I'm not sure we can do this." Now they don't do that, but at some point, Memorial Stadium was going to help you win a game, and they need to get back to that. And that's all about the team, the coaches, and recruiting and all that stuff. But at some point, that they've got the right stage, and I think whatever they do to it in the South Stadium, however they do it, they got the right AD who knows what that stadium needs to be, and I think that they've got a coach who is going to also embrace it and not look at it like it's something that he doesn't care about. I think they will care about it, and I saw the new gates are up. They're going to be a new tunnel walk coming out of the northeast on Saturday night. So I took a picture of it. I might share it later, but it's kind of interesting. They're in their new locker room, and so they're going to come out of that new gate. And I was trying to think. I wonder if they've come out of all four tunnels. I think that they used to come out of the southwest tunnel.
They did.
For years, they came out of that southwest tunnel.
Yep.
I remember the first game I covered there, the '78 Missouri game. Missouri's locker room was in the southeast tunnel. That was where their locker room was. So I don't think Nebraska would have come out of there. I wonder if Nebraska ever came out of that southeast. If they did, then they came out of all four. But I don't know. They used to, after they practiced, they used to go into the southeast tunnel. That's how they walked into the locker room.
They did.
And
Yep.
but they never came. I don't think they ever came out of there unless it was the Devaney years or whatever. But
They come out of the locker room, turn left, and go down the tunnel walk for the game. They always had a walk versus coming right to the sideline.
Right.
That's what's interesting about this tunnel walk on Saturday is they're gonna be on their own sideline side. And so what I'm curious to see is if they run out to midfield around a curve and then to the sideline, or do they just sort of jog to the sideline?
I bet they come. I bet they. Well, they always have like the band or somebody's out there showing them the way. They run through like I don't know what you call it. Human
corridor,
tunnel.
Little pathway,
Corridor.
Not quite a T.
I think that's going
Tennessee.
to. I think that'll still be there to lead them out to midfield, and then they kind of run back. So.
Do you have a favorite game? And I know you're going to talk more about this, but just like
or
a game that is like
I'm
this
going to
is
rank my
Memorial
moments
Stadium.
at some point, but some of the big moments are the the tunnel walk after the first game after 9/11.
Yeah.
That's maybe number one. We'll see. The volleyball's top 5,
Yeah,
maybe
that was
top
cool.
2 or 3. I mean,
Yeah, that was great.
but I have to think about it, man. Yeah,
Isn't
there's
that interesting that like 2 of the best moments are not related to like really to Husker football?
Right.
The 9/11 thing was very, oh man, that was
Powerful.
tough. That was a really tough. It was great, but it was tough. Yep, I remember that really well.
I just think any big game there, you remember how you felt when you were there, and so I'll probably think about those as opposed to the time they played K-State or some of those games in the '80s. But yeah, I mean, so like any Oklahoma game, even if it's Buster Rhymes running on the sideline, he's breaking your heart, you still remember it.
Sure.
But I don't know. I'll think about that. I mean,
My grandpa's favorite memory was the Alabama win when they 31-24.
77.
77.
yeah.
Sam,
And
you
he wasn't from Nebraska, but he was a Nebraska, like Iowa Nebraska fan. Yeah, he was at that game.
you've seen a lot of stadiums too, Sam. What characteristics are unique or distinct, do you think, to Memorial Stadium compared to all the other places that you've
The
been?
incongruity of it.
Yeah.
All 4 sides are different. They are. Like
That's
you
right.
know, very few stadiums are like that. Michigan is symmetrical. Ohio State isn't. Penn State is similar to Nebraska in that each side is different.
Oh yeah.
So Nebraska is that it's different, like that there's a different side to it. And outside, each side of that stadium is different. So if you go to the north side, you go to North Stadium, it's the statue. On the east side, it's all the wealthy boosters and some of the academic leaders, and it's very festive over there. I actually like the east side. South side, there's not much going on
No.
anymore. And then the west side is, I always think of that. What's the name of the place that cooks the burgers? You can smell them. Right there outside the media entrance.
The Husker Burger.
Yeah.
Well, that's gone now because of COVID, but there's a new one.
Yeah. I think of that. I think of smelling that and, the band coming down. So.
What I want to know is, and maybe this is part of your story. I don't want to, steal any thunder here, but why there? Why was it built there? I mean, and 1923 we're talking about. What was the city of Lincoln like? Was the city of Lincoln there in that spot? And was the campus, I assume, was there?
Your lead addresses some of that.
Oh, well, I don't want to.
And Henry's story
Well-
Henry Cordes is writing a story next week about
Because
this.
it's an unusual place for his college football stadium to be. Not many stadiums are right next to downtown like this.
Right.
One, it's almost part of downtown.
Right.
And so, how did that work? And because what? And why was it not somewhere else?
Good point.
I don't know that. I know it initially took up 4 city blocks, and it was pressed up on from all sides by the neighborhood in North Lincoln, and they spent the city and the university spent a number of years trying to buy up those spots north of where like North Stadium is now and the Hawks Center where Buck Belzer was. Like they spent a long time, Schulte, trying to buy up those spots. So I don't know why specifically that spot was chosen initially. Maybe you do, Sam, but really, just interesting time too, because when you looked at the groundbreaking, it was a mix of horse pulled, hose or whatever, and machinery. So like just a really interesting snapshot in time as well.
Well, just think about all the places we've been to and all the stadiums we've seen. Now, not many campuses are right next to the downtown. But if you go to Ames, you're not. Iowa State campus is not next to downtown Ames. Missouri isn't. Same thing. KU is over here. I mean, everything is.
Right.
But Nebraska, you're right downtown.
Wisconsin's the same.
Yeah.
Wisconsin's like Nebraska in that way.
Right. But there aren't many like that, and you just wonder. Okay, I guess I'd like to go. I don't want to go back to 23 necessarily, but what was it like? What did downtown look like? I'm sure somebody's got a photo somewhere of what the whole thing looked like back then. Because why was the campus right by downtown? Why wasn't it over farther west or east? I don't know, but So I think about that kind of stupid stuff, but I love stadiums, and this is one of my favorite. And that day, that I know brings back painful memories to people. Painful. That 78 Missouri game, everything was just perfect. The weather, the cold temperatures, gray skies, this inscription, punching me in the head, but not the goal, but the game, and the deed, the glory.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like I was walking into a church, or some, you know what I mean?
I do.
It was like a
It does feel like that,
or
for
some
sure.
kind of thing back in like ancient Rome.
Yep.
You felt like you were. This is special.
Yeah.
And not every stadium's got one of those.
No.
And so you walk in, and the game's great, and the crowd's unbelievable. It's just, it all comes together in Nebraska. And the stadium, I think it's been the absolute perfect stage for everything. And you just need to win and get that back a little bit. I think I don't think changing this stuff in the next year or two, and we'll have time to talk about this too. What do you do in the meantime when you've got to put people out of their seats, and it's going to take more than just a few months to get that stuff done? They can't leave the stadium for a season, but obviously part of the stadium is going to have to be, I guess, you can't use some of the seats. So
Right.
how's that going to work? Is it going to be next season or 2 years or anyway?
That's a great question. We'll they're not quite. They're going to explore that in October with the regions and all the rest. Let's get to our picks. Okay. Tom's ahead, 15. He's 15-5. Evan is 12-8 after a 4-6 week.
I did not see the picks this week, so
I just wrote them 30 minutes ago.
well, that's why I didn't see them.
Yeah, sorry. I was a little busy at the beginning of the week.
I don't have any system. Well, let's just go.
But you picked Texas last week,
I did.
and neither Evan and I did. You ready? We're
do it.
ready. Louisiana, Mississippi State. At Mississippi State, Louisiana, LSU.
I'll go Stark Vegas.
Evan?
LSU.
LSU for me. Minnesota, North Carolina.
time out.
It's LSU, yes. It's LSU.
You said Louisiana.
I know. I screwed up, and then I said yes.
Okay,
LSU,
this is
right?
a different deal.
Yeah.
LSU.
Minnesota, North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Carolina.
Yeah, me too.
How's Minnesota going to score?
This is the hardest non-conference game that Minnesota has played in the PJ Fleck era.
How did anybody in Nebraska Minnesota game score? Anyway, very
Washington,
carefully.
Michigan State.
Washington.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Washington, big.
I agree. It'll be Washington. Obviously, a strange situation going on in East Lansing. Tennessee at Florida. The Swamp, evening game, great rivalry, two of the best uniforms and helmets, in my opinion. Love this game every year.
I'm gonna take Florida. It's a gamble, but Vols, something's not quite there yet, and he's got to win one of these games at some point, doesn't he?
Billy Napier, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Florida as well.
Tennessee for me.
Okay.
Virginia Tech at Rutgers, and to be clear, Rutgers is a touchdown favorite.
Yeah.
They are a touchdown favorite
I
over
like-
Virginia Tech.
I like Scarlet Knights after what Purdue did last week.
I still got to go Vatek, just on principle.
I'm a Tom. I mean, Virginia Tech is in a hole. Did you read that story that was in ESPN?
No.
It was good. That program is in a rough place. It was worth reading, and I'm not talking about the other story. I'm talking about the story about what's happened in that program since Frank Beamer left. Yeah, they're starting all the way over. It's kind of like what happened when Frank left. Syracuse and Purdue. This is at Purdue.
That's a really interesting one.
1 point favorite. Syracuse is a 1 point favorite. I'm going to take the Cuse.
Yeah, I'm not a Purdue believer yet. Syracuse.
Yeah, so I'll take Syracuse.
Okay. This game is ridiculous. BYU at Arkansas. This is a Power 5 conference game now.
I love the culture clash there.
Oh, God. You're telling me.
But, yeah, I mean, Arkansas.
Pig suey.
Arkansas and Arkansas for me. Backyard brawl. Pittsburgh, West Virginia. They've renewed the rivalry. I love that they have. This was a great game for me as a kid growing up. Backyard brawl.
Where is it at?
Mount Morgantown.
Ooh.
You know how close these two schools are?
West Virginia.
They're very close. They're like 50 minutes.
Yeah,
West Virginia?
West Virginia.
Oh. What have they done so far this year?
They lost to Penn State by some margin, and then they beat some, I don't know, hollandaise sauce. I don't know who they played. But they weren't very good.
I'll go West Virginia. I don't know why.
At Pitt. Okay. Kansas State at Missouri. This is in Columbia. Last year, Kansas State really took them to the woodshed. But this is in Columbia. Kansas State is a favorite.
Missouri should have won bigger last week. I like them. I like their defense. I think K-State's still very good, but I got to go with MIZ. I have to. My daughter will be there.
K-State. I'm going to go with K-State as well. I think it's going to be a really good game. I really do. And the last one, Northern Illinois, Nebraska.
First to 20 wins.
Yeah.
Nebraska.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take Nebraska.
I have Nebraska as well.
Maybe defense will score.
They could sure use it. Boy, could they ever use it. They got to find a way to get some points on the board. Okay, that is our Pick 6 podcast for this week. For Evan and Tom, I'm Sam. We'll be back next week to recap Nebraska, Northern Illinois, and maybe talk some basketball, since I think Nebraska's basketball schedule will be out this week. We might even invite one Wilson Moore, new to the staff and the beat, to talk a little Husker hoops. Thanks, Husker fans.